All right, welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I am Shane Kennedy.
I'm Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
Sebastian Mitchell, the nomadic truck driver.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into it. So we're going to be talking about we're going to be kind of building on what we talked about last week.
Feminism.
Yep.
Feminism.
And we're going to start off by talking about an aspect of feminism, or a person in feminism that not a whole lot of people know about. The person who's known as the foundress of feminism. And the reason I'm using foundress is because I'm using gendered language on purpose. Right?
Because it's correct. Because it's correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because gendered language is always correct.
Correct
So
language.
that's
right?
politically correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I thought you were just being
socially correct.
It's politically correct, socially correct, and grammatically correct as well, right?
Just correct, boys.
He's being actually legit. He's not being cunty.
No. Yes, he's being 100% legitimate.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Because remember, liberals control language, so we're just...
Yep. So what we're trying to get it back, right?
Mm-hmm. To appease them.
Yes.
Now,
Got it.
So before we get into, so we're going to be talking about Mary Wollstonecraft, who is the foundress of feminism. But before that, I just want to go over a few points of things for us to be looking out for that we'll see are kind of our common themes whenever you're discussing feminists, whenever you're discussing the history of feminism. So first thing. Just to get a baseline here, the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of feminism is a belief in an advocacy of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes, expressed especially through organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. So I want for you to keep in mind something, that this is a very, very soft. This definition is a very soft way of saying to smash the patriarchy. All right. Next. We'll notice three common ingredients in the primordial ooze from which feminism springs. The first ingredient that we'll oftentimes see, not always, but oftentimes, is some kind of an abusive father or a poor relationship with the father. This is especially true for female feminists, which makes up the majority of them, but not all of them, as we will see in future episodes. Then we'll also see Unitarianism, which is like it's a heretical branch of Christianity. And we'll also see an interest in the occult. And then the other now this is probably the most common thing that we'll see, is an advocacy for free love and a desire to annihilate marriage, and also an overall a push to subvert what we would call like Christian morals. And you'll see that present in Mary Wollstonecraft, but we'll also see that present in things like the French Revolution and a lot of Enlightenment thinkers, people like David Hume and stuff like that. Okay, and then last thing, so the kind of the textbook definition of Unitarianism, there are two, is one who believes that the deity exists only in one person. And then the other definition for it is a member of a denomination that stresses individual freedom of belief, the free use of reason in religion, and a united world community and liberal social action. So a lot of Unitarians, they say, so they're usually the generation. They're people that are rebelling against the idea that all truth and the authority of all truth is the Bible. And then Unitarians will rebel against that, and they'll say, no, it's not the Bible, it's just my pure reason. And then they usually end up becoming atheists down the road. Okay, so that's kind of the baseline. Those are the things I wanted to cover real quick. I'm gonna do quite a bit of talking for the next maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we're just gonna be freewheeling. We're just gonna be freeballing, right?
Freeballing it.
All right,
okay.
So we're talking about Mary Wollstonecraft, and she's a lady that you don't hear her name unless you have majored in women's studies at a university. So, and I'm guessing there probably aren't a whole lot of those type of people that are watching this podcast. Probably not. Maybe there are.
It's not our audience, but I do know a large group of people that actually have degrees in women's study. I personally know several.
Me too.
What is it when I know it's several? What is it when it's like over 20? Like, is that still several?
Yeah, like a whole tribe of them.
Yeah, it's probably like
Now, so this is the thing. If you happen to be one of those people, feel free to comment, kind of add to the conversation, and if you find any mistakes, which you won't, but if you do find any, feel free to correct us. So, first thing. So Mary Wollstonecraft, just to give you an idea, she was born in 1759 and she died in 1797. She didn't really have all that long of a life. So she died at around the age of 38.
I was about to say she's about 40 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't really live all that long. And
Which was the average life back then, yeah?
well, so the thing is, infant mortality was really, really high.
This
But
is London?
yeah, yep. So this would have been on the outskirts of London.
Okay.
This would have been
It's
like
in Britain.
Yeah, like the area around Bath, England, and places like that. So this would have been probably maybe what today would have been regarded as like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive outside of London.
Yeah, 40, 50 was the lifespan back then, wasn't it?
40, 50, 60. So typically, if women survive childbirth, you could expect them to live into their 60s at that time. Like,
That's what threw off the averages, right? Was
Yeah.
that child mortality was so high.
yep, yeah. So child mortality, and then there were certain milestones in one's lifetime. If you survived those particular milestones, like for men, if you survived the typical like fighting age or the
Say
typical
war,
age that you
yeah.
would have done hard labor, then you were pretty likely to live a pretty long life. And if you were a woman and you survived childbirth, then you could be expected to live a pretty long life.
Okay.
You know, so okay. So Mary Wollstonecraft's childhood, she had a pretty traumatic childhood, in which she dealt with an alcoholic, abusive, and wife-beating father whose name was John Edward Wollstonecraft. Okay, so there we're already seeing that abusive father figure, right?
I'm going to let you get through the meat of all this because I want to go on those 3 points at the end of this. Okay.
Okay.
Starting out with daddy issues.
Yep. Yep. That's where it usually starts, right?
Very common denominator.
So he moved the family around quite a bit due to financial hardships. It looks like he had a lot of trouble providing for his family because of his alcoholism and temper and all kinds of issues. Her mother's name was Elizabeth Wollstonecraft, and she, according to many primary and secondary sources, one of them being William Godwin, who would later be Mary Wollstonecraft's husband, who wrote a biography about her, said that Mary's mother Elizabeth was very weak-willed, and she was also very harsh to her daughter. Mary was also Mary was her least favorite child, and also happened to be the oldest. And Mary's mother made it clear that she loved Mary's brothers more than she loved her. And Mary would often have to fight her father to get him to stop beating her mother. And her mother would often neglect her in retribution, I guess, for getting her father off of her.
Okay.
Which is crazy. I mean, we're already looking at dysfunction junction.
I was gonna
No,
say,
there's a lot of psychology behind
Yeah.
that.
in a modern sense, talking to a police officer while he's hauling the husband off to jail for domestic violence, the bloodied girlfriend or wife says, "Don't take my baby." As her face is covered.
100%.
I'm just
That's actually very common.
Yep.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Except
But-
in this case, the police officer's the oldest daughter. You know,
yeah, but he's like, "What the hell?"
which is wild.
You're beat half to death.
In her childhood, Mary Wollstonecraft, it looks like she didn't have a whole lot of friends. She made one friend whose name was Frances Blood, whose nickname was Fanny, and we're going to get back to her in just a minute. So Mary Mary didn't receive very much education, which it was really common at this time, especially for girls, not to receive much education. That the extent of a woman's education at this time would have been like, sewing, knitting, helping out with harvesting, and
That's why they push for
cooking.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even most kids, they just usually went to like the primary school, right?
Right.
And then it usually stopped because they had community schools that would go up to what we would be equivalent of a 5th or 6th grade level, and then it kind of stopped, right?
Yeah, kind of like the schoolhouse model.
Yeah, and there was really nothing past that. And I know it's a poor comparison, but for most of history, all the way up into even modern America, beginning, it didn't really go past that 6th grade level, correct?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So Mary didn't receive much education. She also didn't receive much education from church because it looks like they really weren't very much connected to church. She had been baptized as into the Church of England, but it looks like she didn't really receive much education as far as like the Bible and stuff like that goes either.
So the family was Protestant? They were Protestants?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Anglicans, Church of England. So she ended up meeting a neighbor who is an old clergyman, like an old preacher named Mr. Clare. And Mr. Clare had a large book collection, and he would let Mary come over and read his books. So this seems to have been kind of the beginning of her education, of like her intellectual development. What was going over there and reading his books.
Do you know what age started to happen?
It happened in childhood, probably like 8 or 9 years old.
So she's still a sponge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah. And the thing, and Mary Wollstonecraft, she was an intelligent woman, and she kind of beat the odds in many ways.
Well, it sounds like
she was self-taught.
I was about to say,
Yes,
sounds
yeah,
like she matured through pain
Oh, she did.
and its experience versus love and nurturing.
Yeah. She overcame a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So in her early life, she moved out as soon as she could, and worked as a caretaker for an elderly woman in another town. The town that she helped this elderly woman in was the town of Bath, England, which is named after the old Roman baths.
Yeah,
that were found there.
No shit.
Yeah,
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, Bath,
Did not know
England.
that.
Yep.
Huge in England.
So,
be damned.
So the woman that Mary went to go work for to help take care of, and a big part of the reason Mary wanted to go and work to take care of this woman was she wanted to get out of
escape.
her chaos. Yeah. So she
Even being a caretaker is a better
a
proposition
much
than
better
staying
setup.
home. Yeah.
So what ended up happening is Mary went over there to help take care of this older woman. Shortly after she went over there to help taking care of her, this woman died.
Naturally.
And then Mary had to go back home. And then shortly after Mary went back home to Dysfunction Junction, her mother passed away. Okay. Now,
Is her father still alive then?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Her father lived a pretty long life. So then her childhood friend Fanny, Frances Blood, nicknamed Fanny, started a school. So Fanny was a pretty ambitious lady. She went and started a school, and Mary was fairly ambitious, smart. She went and worked with and for Fanny. Then Fanny's school failed.
Probably doing so against all societal norms.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Was it all girls school?
That I don't know. I would assume it probably was though.
Okay.
And the school failed, and Fanny died. Fanny died very young.
Okay. Happy
So
ending.
Jesus. Our main character here has had a lot of death.
A lot of death, a lot of trauma. She would intervene to protect her mother from getting beaten by her father, and then and she'd be successful, and then her mother would neglect her and be like, this is between your father and I don't want you interfering in our marriage. And
It's
stuff.
not an easy life.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like every time she got some form of stability and peace, it was stripped from her.
With death.
Bingo. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that will lay the foundation. And we're getting into her early adulthood now. That'll lay the foundation for the rest of her life. So
I have a lot in common with this woman.
So after returning home as a single mother, having been abandoned. Okay, here. So first thing she did, she starts writing a bunch of letters, and she starts writing a bunch of pamphlets. There was a conservative member of parliament named Edmund Burke. So Edmund Burke is famous for the saying that evil prevails when good men do nothing. Have you heard that
Yes.
saying?
I
Yes.
love, yeah.
Yeah, so that comes from the parliamentarian Edmund Burke, and Edmund Burke was in favor of the American Revolution because of the principles it stood for, and this was an Englishman, but he opposed the French Revolution because of the principles that stood for. And so Mary sided with the French Revolution people, which kind of put her on the side of Robespierre, Thomas Paine, and
Robespierre was insane.
Oh, Robespierre was nuts, dude. That should be a podcast that we do sometimes about Robespierre.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
So
Somebody murdered him in his bath, didn't he?
he
Or was he in bed?
he would take a lot of baths because he had a lot of medical issues.
Yeah,
like he had psoriasis and
most
stuff.
of the shit he wrote was from writing in the bath.
Yeah, but he eventually, the way he died was his head got cut off.
Yeah,
During the Reign of Terror that he started.
Yeah.
So
and advocated for it during the entire revolution.
yeah, it's nuts. Okay, so Mary defended the French Revolution in her writings and letters before ever having gone to see it for herself. Okay, her friend Thomas Paine was a fellow supporter, like I said, and she wrote a pamphlet called "A Vindication of the Rights of Men." Okay, Vindication of the Rights of Men. So this was a defense of the French Revolution against its harshest critics. Specifically, this was a defense of the revolution against the critiques by Edmund Burke, the guy that I quoted before. All right, Mary was deeply interested in the cause of the French Revolution. she was interested in the fact that the French Revolution it was proto-Marxist, like class warfare and stuff like that. Like the idea that the rich, or the idea that the poor should take the land from the rich and kill the rich and stuff like that. And then also subverting morals, trying to root out Christianity from the culture. Like the French Revolution, they wanted to eliminate things like the 7-day week because they would say the 7-day week was grounded in Christianity. And so she actually traveled to France in 1793, and while she was in France, in Paris, living up the revolution, she ended up meeting an American lefty named Gilbert Imlay, and he knocked her up.
A lefty by today's standards or back then?
Well, a lefty in terms of the French Revolution standards.
I think that's an important distinction.
Okay, so when I say a lefty, someone who wants to totally subvert everything that we would know as being Western, like who would oppose property rights, who would oppose marriage, who would oppose
hardcore proto-Marxist.
Yeah. So the thing is, when especially in this time period, we can look at two different kinds of revolutions that happened around the same time. The French Revolution, which was about overturning all the societal norms, right, like subverting everything. And then the French Revolution,
there was no goals there. They just wanted to burn it all down.
Yeah, they wanted to subvert everything. They wanted to tear everything down.
40,000 heads rolled.
Exactly, yeah. But when you compare that to the American Revolution, which everything wasn't perfect in the American Revolution, but in the American Revolution, the founders wanted to preserve the culture. They wanted to preserve the societal norms. Yeah. They simply wanted a change in government. That's all they wanted.
We weren't mindlessly killing people.
Exactly. Yeah. So somebody like Mary Wollstonecraft would criticize the American Revolution and say that it was too right wing, it was too conservative, it was too backwards.
Are you speculating, making an assumption here? Or did she actually say that?
That's what she actually said.
Okay, got it.
And then as far as the French Revolution goes, she would say that that's the direction the rest of the world should take.
Okay.
And particularly like the English speaking, French speaking, like the European peoples in particular, because that's really all she knew.
Okay.
Then so she ended up getting knocked up in 1793 by Gilbert Imlay. And many of her French friends were executed. And so while she was in France during the Revolution, many of her friends were executed by means of the guillotine. This ended up terrifying Mary so much. So this is more trauma in her life, right? So like she escapes from being attacked by her father, but being beaten by her dad, being attacked by her mom.
I literally said, "Wow, imagine that in my head."
Yeah, like and then and her best friend Fanny, starts a school, fails, and then dies. It's this big shit show, and then she ends up going over to France, and she makes all these radical friends over there, and then all their heads end up getting cut off.
I know we're trying to let you get through this, but just for my sake, because I don't want to forget these points. Do we know, and it's okay if we don't, do we know if there was sexual abuse in her childhood?
We don't know that for sure, but
there's definitely physical abuse. Okay. And witness to physical abuse.
I would say that would be worth putting money on. Unfortunately,
we don't have concrete evidence, though,
right?
But
Yeah,
we can speculate on this.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But just understanding kind of the situation she comes from, that would not surprise me at all.
That is a shit hand.
A possibility, but I'm not going to put anything on it. Okay.
So she got pregnant in France, and this guy Gilbert Imlay, who was a radical just like Mary was, rejected the concept of marriage along with property rights and everything. So he abandoned her. High and dry, and Mary was pregnant.
Just deuces.
Yeah, just peace out.
Okay.
So Mary ended up returning to England. Now, this was not an easy task for her. Now, the only thing that Gilbert Imlay, the guy that knocked her up, did for her was he lied to the American embassy and said that she was his wife, but she wasn't. Mm-hmm. And that allowed her to get a visa to go back to England by means of the American embassy. So, because if she didn't have that ability, she probably would have had her head ripped off too, or her not ripped off, but cut off.
Yeah.
So
all of her friends.
Yeah, and so
he
she
did get her out of France.
Yeah, it did get her out of France.
He bolted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he bolted
because he doesn't believe in. I believe in the Christian virtue of marriage.
Yeah. So he just doesn't believe in the virtue of marriage. He doesn't believe in the notion that that he would have a responsibility
An
to
obligation,
an obligation to help her raise the child, to provide for her and stuff like that.
He's a fucking dirtbag.
Now, okay, so here I'm going to go back to, so after she returned home as a single mother, having been abandoned by Gilbert Imlay, she became so depressed she tried to end her life twice. So she came back to England in a very, very deep depression.
Well, I mean,
And
look at her life. But here,
Yeah.
okay, so
then she probably had postpartum depression too, I'm guessing.
Oh,
So
you know?
two
Possibly,
times we know
yeah.
for a fact she tried to end her life.
So is this a I legitimately attempted to kill myself, or was this a call for help? Because those are two very different things.
I would imagine, that was a culture. At that time, if you attempted to commit suicide, or if you attempted to end your life, people wouldn't rally around you the way they do now.
This is why I ask. There's
Yeah.
a difference between hanging from the ceiling and someone intervening as you're fading, and improperly slitting your wrists.
That's a modern concept, though.
It is.
Back then,
It-
shame
it
actually
is.
was carried.
So
being a mother
based
out of
off
wedlock-
your research, do you feel that she legitimately tried to end her life not once but twice?
I think she did, and maybe she didn't. Maybe when she was trying to carry it out, maybe she wasn't able to. Maybe she eventually thought of her daughter.
Okay.
Maybe she thought of her newborn daughter, and she was like, "I can't do this."
Okay, all right.
But she, regardless, though, she ended up hitting rock bottom when she got back to England.
Yeah.
And the daughter that she ended up giving birth to in England when she returned back pregnant, was she named her Fanny after her friend that had passed
her
away.
Deceased
Yep.
best friend. Yeah.
Now, she ended up meeting this super radical lefty, the super radical lefty philosopher, historian, Enlightenment man named William Godwin in 1796, and although he was philosophically opposed to marriage, they got married after she became pregnant.
With his child.
Yes,
Child number 2.
Yeah, child number 2. So he knocked her up. Then basically the agreement they came to was they were both like, look, we both intellectually disagree with the concept of marriage, but in the society we're living in, there would be a stigma
Yeah.
if we didn't get married. And William Godwin felt like, well, you're carrying my baby and you're going to give birth to my baby, so I do have a responsibility to you.
Yeah.
And let's just not call it marriage. It's
Well, kudos to him.
Yeah.
But he was a wild man though.
Yeah, but I mean,
He-
I do gotta. He did take responsibility on
He did,
that
yeah.
because, first of all, this was already a single mother, which at that time period, like I said, shame was actually carried back then. So yeah, I mean, even up into
Huge.
America into the 1960s, I would say.
Yeah.
If you were a divorced woman, I don't care what anyone says. I know these people. They're our grandparents or parents. There was a stigma. If you were a single mother, there was a stigma. If you were a woman of low rapport, there was a stigma. There was a lot of things. Yeah, and even as a man, even more so, there were stigmas. If you couldn't hold a job or you lived too much in the bottle and you didn't have a responsibility, there was a lot of stigma. So this guy, I know the story because you and I have talked about it. This guy's obviously going to be a piece of shit, but we do got to give him props on that one. So he was fundamentally against something and still took responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, there will be a stigma. This is my child. I do have a responsibility. So I will give that to Godwin.
Yeah.
Maybe not much else.
Now, and we don't have much left, and then the floor will be open.
We keep interrupting. Go ahead.
So she gave birth to William Godwin's daughter, to she and William Godwin's daughter, named Mary Godwin. And Mary Godwin is actually a famous historical figure because she would also be she would carry on her mother's tradition of feminism, of actually being one of the people to actually really develop feminism into a form that we would recognize today. Mm-hmm. And she also wrote the book Frankenstein.
One of the biggest pieces of
The
shit
Frankenstein.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. He's alive.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
He's alive. He's alive. But so
Or no, sorry. It's alive.
now I've got one last tragic thing to mention.
You know, I've never watched the original Frankenstein.
It's really good.
I haven't. It's
really not.
I need to watch it.
Well, you know what? Let's watch it, and then we'll do a reaction video to it
I'm in.
sometime. So 10 days after Mary got 10 days after Mary gave birth to her daughter, Mary Godwin, Mary Wollstonecraft died.
Probably from complications of pregnancy.
That's exactly right. In fact, so now this is something that's not concretely known for sure, but the speculation is that at that time it was taboo for doctors to wash their hands. And a common thing that would happen to women in this, like the symptoms that Mary had, it was probably an infection that set in from the doctor not having clean hands.
What is the other one? Chlamydia?
Oh, preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia. That's
Yeah.
it. That could have been it too.
Yeah,
'cause that's right around that time frame.
Yeah, but I think preeclampsia typically happens.
That's only within a few days,
Yeah.
typically. Yeah.
Yeah. This was an infection that set in and it went septic, and this ended up killing her.
And they didn't have antibiotics.
Right.
So.
And unfortunately, so Mary ended up having a funeral at the local church. I think her husband William Godwin. I think William Godwin, he fought it. He didn't want her to have a funeral, but she ended up having a funeral.
Did William Godwin take I'm making inquiries here. I'm not interrupting.
yeah.
Did William Godwin take responsibility for his stepchild? Do you know anything what happened to that?
They had kind of a weird, not a perverse relationship, but he didn't treat her right.
He provided,
His
but it was
daughter.
the minimum.
Yeah. Well,
Two kids then. So was the first child a daughter or a son?
daughter. So
she had two daughters.
Yeah. So she had two daughters. Now,
Okay.
I think Fanny was treated badly by William Godwin. That I'm not 100% sure of. But William Godwin, he also treated Mary Jr. pretty poorly.
Okay.
And that's something that we'll see later on. Not in this podcast, but we'll see that later on. So, now let's dive into William Godwin, and then we'll talk about Mary's famous work, which is called "The Vindication of the Rights of Women" that Mary published in 1790.
And her first work was The Vindication of Men.
Yeah, The Vindication of the Rights of Men, which is her defense of the French Revolution.
Correct.
Okay.
But then so we'll talk about William Godwin briefly, and then we'll kind of summarize her major work, and then we'll start
Sky's the limit.
free balling it. All right.
What do you think?
I've been freeballing it this whole time.
What do you think of the cigar?
Delicious.
Really?
Very nice.
One
Yeah,
to 10?
it's kind of got a weird shape to it.
It does. It's a very weird press. 1 to 10.
Definitely an 8.
Should I buy a box?
An 8, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
buy a box.
You should.
All right.
Okay, so William Godwin was originally raised a Calvinist, and he desired to be a minister whenever he was a young man. And then he ended up flirting with Unitarianism and Unitarian-related philosophies. He eventually became a deist, and then by 1787 he was an atheist.
What made him transition? Because Calvinists are very rigid.
Yeah, Calvinist is, if I remember correctly, God in everything before everything, right?
Well, so it's really interesting, and this also happened in America too. Typically, what will happen with Calvinists is they
Pause.
they will typically become Unitarians.
Pause.
And then
our
Unitarians typically become
for our
atheists.
audience. What is Calvinism?
So Calvinism is the idea that basically God orchestrates everything. That in order for God to be considered sovereign and all powerful, then all wills must be explicitly subject to His. So for instance,
So it's Christianity to the extreme,
right. Okay. So what I would say is it's actually a lot like Islam, where remember that Islam means submission, and what Calvinism does, it kind of and I've got a lot of Calvinist friends. I've got a lot of respect for Calvinists, but my critique of Calvinism would be that it doesn't leave any room for the agency of the individual, right?
I agree. I agree 100%.
So he eventually by 1787 had morphed into an atheist, and this was by the time that he ended up marrying Mary.
Okay.
Or that he met and married Mary.
He became a deist and then an atheist.
Yes. Yeah.
What made him lose religion?
Just so what ended up happening. So remember, this is all kind of the result of the Enlightenment movement, and what the Enlightenment movement would say is that the only source of authority that you can trust is your own reason,
Self.
and not just your own reason, but things that you can observe and experience yourself. So it would be something like what's called empiricism. And empiricism was really largely pushed by a British philosopher who lived around this time named David Hume, and that's what empiricism says is that you trust reason, and the only things that are valid things to subject to reason are things that you can directly experience yourself. So those are the only things that are real. Okay. And so that's where the term empiricism comes from. Where
Is this a quick transition or over years?
this happened over decades.
Okay.
And at that time, that was actually a really common thing among kind of like activist intelligentsia. They would typically begin as
Nice word.
Yeah, thank you. They would typically begin as Church of England, kind of like Calvinists, and then they would morph into Unitarians, and then either they would become atheists or their children would end up becoming atheists after
That makes
being raised
sense.
Unitarian.
That makes sense.
And I'm not saying that to criticize. I'm just saying that's the typical trajectory. Like that happened with that's one of the reasons that New England is the way New England is today, is because the founding class of New England, basically the Pilgrims were all Calvinists, and then their descendants ended up becoming Unitarians, and then now you've got all the crazy people up in New England, basically. So William Godwin was also fascinated with magic and the occult in spite of being an atheist. And he actually wrote a lot on the subject of trying to figure out how to become immortal. Actually, it's really interesting because it's very similar to a big movement today in Silicon Valley of trying to figure out how to immortalize your soul by downloading it into like a cloud, or download it
Correct.
into some kind of like a hard drive or something.
Yeah, we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're not trying to. We're trying to figure out what consciousness is.
We're trying to download the conscious.
And we're
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're very, very, very far from it, but we're trying to figure out what it is in order for us to download it.
Yeah. So, okay, and then in here I'll just read this directly. So Godwin was a radical Enlightenment philosopher. He rejected faith in favor of reason and experience, and he clung to the. So in my notes I wrote incoherence of empiricism, and I've got a definition here of empiricism. So the definition this comes from Wikipedia. Empiricism is an epistemological view. Epistemology means it's a question of how do you know anything to be true. So an epistemological question would be, how do I know that the surface of this ashtray is smooth? Mm-hmm. So an empiricist would say the way I know it's smooth is by feeling it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so. Okay, and so it's an epistemological view which holds that true knowledge or justification comes only or primarily from sensory experiences, right? Like sensory, like touch.
Verification of all
Yep.
things through self.
Yep.
Okay.
And empirical evidence. Okay. So, and he was also an advocate of the abolition of private property, marriage, and he was a proto-Marxist, like we mentioned before.
Yep.
All right. So this will kind of put a bow on everything. And then we'll just start freewheeling. So Mary Wollstonecraft, she published her book, The Vindication of the Rights of Women, in 1790. This is considered to be the founding document of modern feminism.
Of wave one feminism.
Yes, yeah, like of the entire modern feminist movement.
This is the cornerstone.
Yep. So
Which I recently learned has 3 different names:
yep.
the women's movement, women's suffrage, and first wave feminism.
Well, and you know what my favorite place my favorite place to stand in regards to the women's movement is behind it.
Meaning you support it?
No, I just like to be behind it and watch it. You know. So
Okay.
It sounded like you supported it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when you say something like I'm behind that idea, meaning I support that.
Well, I
idea.
like to stand behind it. It's a good view.
So you support it.
Well,
Yes.
I just like to admire. I like to admire the view. women's movement.
So you like stand on the side of it.
I think he's saying, and I think he's being tongue in cheek here. If I may, can I make an assumption?
Go ahead.
I think he's saying that he likes to see them big old fat asses. Big fat.
It's got a big old booty.
Cannot confirm or deny.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay, so this will finish us up. We'll be done in like 2 or 3 minutes. So her book, The
That's
Vindication
the
of
quotas of his life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go.
So that's the only thing. That's the only way I can get people to listen to me.
Yeah.
You know. So
And this is why there's the women's suffrage.
yeah. Emphasis on the suffer, right? So Mary's book was very wordy and very long-winded, and she had a reputation for being very wordy and very long-winded. In fact, Thomas Paine even commented saying that when he went on a train ride with Mary Wollstonecraft, she started talking the moment they all sat down in the train car, and she didn't stop until they got out of the train car.
Holy fuck.
You know? Wow. So she had a lot to say, but you know, I mean, she had a very traumatic life, right? Mm-hmm. So there are 3 main ideas in her book. The first is that equity must reign in society. So equality, in particular, equity must reign in society. So society must be reorganized. Okay?
Equity must reign in society.
Yeah, so what that means is you smash the patriarchy. You get rid of the hierarchy of the church, you get rid of the hierarchy of the government. You get rid of the hierarchy of like having one person in charge. You get rid of the hierarchy of property ownership.
Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Women's equality doesn't mean that you kill everything else.
Well, smash the patriarchy specifically means you eliminate the hierarchy.
I understand what that means.
Because what they would say is, so the typical, a feminist would argue, or a typical feminist that really knows her feminism,
sure,
would argue that things like the corporation, for instance, that is a patriarchal structure that men created to suppress women's rights.
Sure, if you're radical.
And property rights, for instance, that's a whole system of hierarchy created to suppress women. Same thing with marriage. That's a system of hierarchy created by clever men to suppress women, right? And so what Mary's arguing is, in order for everything to be okay in society, you have to smash all those things. And the end result.
That's what that book is.
Yeah, so that's the first main idea.
So
of her
gender
book.
Equality, everything else must burn.
Right, because what she would argue is that
you need a reset.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't put it better myself.
Okay.
You have to reset everything.
Okay. I'm with you.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So the second main idea is you've got to change women's education, which I think that's something that we would all probably agree with, that women shouldn't only be because remember, like I said earlier, at this time in history, women were only taught like how to sew, mm-hmm. how to cook, how to help harvest and stuff, and they really were not taught much beyond that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's something we would all probably agree on, that was a problem at the time.
Yeah, lack of.
Yeah. So that's actually something that would probably be the main thing that I would.
A lack of education in the traditional sense.
Yes.
Women were taught how to take care of the homestead. That was their pretty much their only priority.
Yeah, and the thing is, like a lot of the time, women would not be taught to read.
No.
Too.
No.
So the thing is, now, I mean, I think in the world we're living in today, we have a tendency to try to say that they were just backward barbarians back then. They weren't. But the thing is, if you had a parent that had that had limited means and they could only afford to have one of their children taught to read, then they would teach the son and not the daughter.
Well, yeah, but remember what I said about judging history. Don't look through the eyes. Don't look through the
lens.
Thank you. Don't view history through the lens of modern morality. Put yourself in that time.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, 100%.
Very well said.
The final plank of her book is really about, it's kind of a Matt Walsh kind of a so this is actually where Matt Walsh's documentary kind of comes in. What is a woman? So the final plank of what she would argue is what it means to be female needs to be redefined, and this is where she kind of separates the whole notion of gender from sex, where she would argue that the only thing that matters in a human, it's not your exterior body, and the only thing that matters as far as your identity goes, it's your innate, it's your mind. And what she would say is that the mind is gender neutral.
So she would say that 60 pronouns are completely acceptable now.
Yeah, well,
Like what we have going on today is her fucking paradise.
Probably.
Okay.
So the thing is,
actually, probably not.
you know, a lot of this stuff she probably couldn't fathom, but a lot of this stuff she might look at it and say this is not revolutionary enough.
I would say what she believed led to that. She would think that was insane. She's trying to get a different. She's trying to differentiate between gender and sex, not necessarily. A lot of people, not to get off topic, but up until that point, a lot of people never thought there was more than two genders.
Well,
that was not a common thing.
No, and that's as absurd as the flat Earth theory. But
what they were trying to do was separate sex and gender.
right. So let's ask the question.
Well,
Oh, hold on, this is very relevant.
okay, yeah.
Can you separate sex from gender back then or today?
Well, it depends on what you mean by sex, and it depends on what you mean by gender.
Because when I think of sex, you're born male or female, and when you think of gender, you're male or female.
Right.
So where's the separation?
Bingo.
What? But I'm asking that not as for you to agree. I'm asking that what is their argument for the separation?
No, but that's the whole point, and we're not trying to blow you off.
Yeah.
What we're trying to say is, ask the question again.
What? How do they They say there's a separation. That's what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's their argument? That's what I'm asking.
So I've got a quote here by a professor.
Go ahead.
That I'll read that will
Go ahead.
answer that question. Here, let me make sure I read the right one.
The
and not
fucking
wrong one.
relevance of this shit to today is insane.
Well,
Okay, here.
As soon as he reads this,
Yeah. The
we'll
more
chime in
more I'm listening, the more my viewpoints are changing. On
Okay,
this.
here. So I've got 3 quotes by this professor that I think that'll be very relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay. What is the year of this professor?
So this professor actually wrote this in a book like 2 years ago.
Oh. Okay.
And this professor wrote a book kind of about the history and philosophy of feminism. Her name is Dr. Carrie Gress.
Oh, it's a woman.
Yeah. So that gives her even more street cred whenever she's talking
I
about feminism.
apologize.
So
she identifies as a woman.
Yes, she identifies as a woman.
Yeah.
Well, actually, she would disagree with that statement. She would say that she is a woman.
Oh, okay. Just innately a
by
woman.
birth.
Okay,
You
okay,
are
yeah.
a facetious prick.
So first thing, and all 3 of these quotes come from her book called The End of Woman, which is her kind of history of feminism and kind of a summary of the philosophy of feminism. And what she says is, so her first quote, and all 3 of these are about kind of like the relationship between gender and sex. Mm-hmm. First quote. While admitting bodily differences, Wollstonecraft didn't believe there were differences in virtues between the sexes. She uses the term virtue to mean the exercise of reason. So it's kind of like what I said before about Wollstonecraft believing that kind of that your exterior body has a sex, but your mind is gender neutral. And what Wollstonecraft would say is that your mind is who
Hold
you
on.
are.
So they're trying to separate the psychology from a hole or a pole.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, they're trying to say that your hole or pole doesn't matter.
your hole or pole.
It's what's up here.
Right.
correct.
Okay.
And that's all gender neutral. And that can be whatever it wants to define itself as.
Okay. And
right?
to a
which kind of gets us into all the
hardworking
trans movement today, right?
agnostic, atheist, shadow walker, pretty normal guy. That's fucking insane.
I know. Oh, dude, this is all wild stuff.
But again, this was written 2 years ago. I'm trying to put myself back to what was written back then.
And we're gonna let you get these last 2 points, but I cannot let this go. What the fuck is a shadow walker?
You called me that being sarcastic when I said I'm agnostic, atheist, shadow. Well, you said you're a shadow walker between the two.
Oh, this is my turn.
Yes, this is your turn. I'm quoting you.
I apologize.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
quoting you here.
Quote Nico Gagliano.
I actually coined this. I'm sorry. So I forgot my own thing. Yes, you're a shadow walker. It's one that walks. I
Between-
didn't know how you were using. You're using like I use it.
No, because I have agnostic atheists.
It's where you walk between both worlds.
Pretty much, yeah.
To where
We quote you all the time.
see, because I think theologically, or at least spiritually, however you want to say it, and let's not break this into multiple debates. I think that when it comes religiously or spiritually, I think you're trans. Okay, Shane, go ahead. We don't have to
For the
ponder on that.
record, I'd like to go on the record and say he's a fucking prick. Anyways,
And you know what? For the record, I agree with both of you.
Thank you.
All right.
fuck you.
Okay, so the second quote by Dr. Carey Grass that kind of carries on the trajectory that we're following. Mary Wollstonecraft, begins the concept of neutering the concept of female, driving it away from the maternal, and supplies the foundation for equating men and women in a way that denies any difference between the sexes.
So the professor who wrote The Separation of Gender and Sex, the book that you were just referring to 2 years ago. This is the
Or the end of woman.
yes,
is what
yes.
that book's called.
This is this is the seed of those arguments.
Dude, this is where it all begins. That's why this stuff is so relevant to where we are now. You know?
It's the corner.
This is
the
This is
cornerstone.
the stuff that I like literally refer to as a fucking mental cancer.
Yeah, but well, you know, the best way for us to be able to cut out a cancer, and I'm not trying to.
Don't go fucking all Auschwitz on
No,
me
no,
here.
no. But the thing is, the you have to diagnose it first, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that's why it's so important that
Where
we're
it took
having this
root.
conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is because we're trying to get down to the root cause of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick,
just like you said.
these points that she's fighting, they only seem so radical now because we know what they've led to.
Yeah.
If we would have had this conversation back in 2001 or 1995, these are very commonly accepted practices. These 3 points are not really that revolutionary. Now, back then, when she was saying them,
This is insane, even back then.
back then these were off the wall.
They
radical.
wouldn't give her the time of the day.
But these are not radical ideas. They're only radical because we know in the last 10 to 15 years what it led to. Like these have been
No,
accepted in modern times.
Even today, to the average Joe, okay, these are still radical ideas. We've just normalized them to where they're no longer radical.
Right.
Completely. They go against not only spiritual and religious values, they go against biological values
Yeah.
in science.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
yeah, they have been normalized to the point where they don't seem that off the cuff or off the wall. These are commonly accepted practices.
And-
They're taught in school.
And here's what grinds my fucking gears. I'm a lover of science, and I don't really believe in your guys' definition of God or whatever you guys.
It's not our God.
But-
It's just God.
Oh, okay, whatever.
It's not our God. It's just him.
My point. Oh, you just derailed my thought train.
Sorry.
No, my point is people that I admire in the scientific community that I look to for information on a lot of stuff are buying into this bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a second. 10 years ago, there was 2 genders, and now you're saying there's 60.
Now, you know, paying credit to where credit is due. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Richard Dawkins, and you.
I'm a huge fan of Richard
Right.
Dawkins. Yeah,
But the thing is,
I don't know his stance on this.
well, I'll tell you this: Richard Dawkins is not on board with any of this stuff.
None of it.
No, he's an evolutionary biologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys read his book?
I've never read his
The
stuff.
Selfish
I've-
Gene.
Oh, yeah, The Selfish Gene?
I've listened to a lot of his lectures.
10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I read it probably about 5 years ago.
I retain maybe 5% of it. I have to reread it. I have to reread a lot of books.
But Richard Dawkins though is not on board with any of this stuff.
Does not believe in this bullshit at all.
Okay.
But they'll quote him like crazy.
Well, in fact, it's interesting because one of the reasons that he lost, because remember how big he was for a while, and
He was huge.
and you know
About
how
15 years ago?
yeah, and you know how he's not that big anymore. A big part of it is that he got canceled.
Did he really get canceled?
Yes.
When the left is done with you, and
Yeah.
I've said this before in this podcast, when the left is done with you, they will chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
Well, what does Jordan Peterson cover when he was covering communism? That the original, I'm gonna misquote this so hard. When in Russia, when they were overthrowing.
Do you want me to look something up?
No, maybe no. I know you're knowledgeable here, so you can jump in. So when we were overthrowing the Tsar, right, and the people that were overthrowing them were Marxists, essentially, right?
The Bolsheviks or the
I think so. The Lenins and all that.
Yeah. The Bolsheviks.
A lot of those
Bolsheviks.
original fighters were fucking executed.
Oh
by Bolsheviks.
Yes.
So I mean, it literally is like a snake that eats itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and that was actually one of the biggest genocide, one of the biggest cases of ethnic cleansing in history. Was the Bolsheviks killed about 25 million Orthodox Christians from
But they
1917
were killing
to
their own fucking people who fought for this shit.
Well, so you have to remember
Jordan Peterson in a lecture covered that. He goes, because once you think that you have a better idea or a more extreme idea as a socialist or communist, if you're not at the top and they interpret as if you're trying to get there, they're going to execute you no matter how good your ideas are.
Well, here let's table this for just a second.
Yeah.
I want to read this last quote, and then I think we'll be able to kind of bring all this back together.
We'll
'cause I've
recycle
got
back to
something.
that, or circle back to it and recycle.
So there's one final quote by Dr. Carrie Gress, just kind of following along, and she says her emphasis, again, Mary Wollstonecraft, on the female as a human creature or rational creature, and not as a woman, which builds upon her idea of natural and rational equality. The capacity for womanhood in this view is somehow not essential to being a female human. The idea rests on the belief that having and raising children is what is keeping female humans from being real people.
Read that last part again. The idea.
The idea or maybe this idea rests on the belief that having and raising children is what is keeping female humans from being real people.
Jesus. Okay.
Because she sees women as being, I mean, by her own admission right there, by having children, it's keeping women from being real people.
She's literally saying women are evolutionarily repressed.
Correct. She's saying they're second-class citizens.
No, I know.
Biologically.
Yeah.
So she's saying that
this is Carrie Gress's summary of Mary Wollstonecraft.
Exactly,
right?
that there's a lower standard that women live to just by nature.
Which is wrong.
Correct, because as we all know, and I think we know this by all of us know this, we have women in our life that when we've been in relationships or anything like that, it is very natural for us. I think everyone here has been in love or has a woman in their life that they love very much. Our first thought is to lay down our life for those people. Mm-hmm. We will, if there is danger, I don't care if it's a gunman, a bear, no matter what it is.
It's called being a man.
We will put ourselves in the immediate danger of losing our life, which I think we can all agree is probably the greatest thing you can do. Is that you
that's the highest calling as a man.
As a man.
Yeah.
She's saying that we would do that for these women. Why would we do that for something that is not as important as us or more important for that reason? That would be like me dying for my car. That's insane.
There is an exception. Like this woman, I would let her get eaten by a bear.
So by her own admission, she just sees women as weaker because she doesn't understand that there's a difference between men and women. That's okay, biologically.
But she implies having children or being a woman inherently devalues you.
Yeah. Well, you know, though, I mean,
it's like Jesus.
So to play the devil's advocate here,
it's usually his job.
Yeah, I know. But to play the devil's advocate here, if you look at the life of Mary Wollstonecraft, I think it's a very easy conclusion to come to that she would view children as being an impediment to a woman's ability to live a good life, because she had a lot of weird ideas. She rejected property rights and stuff like that.
Hold on, let's go way back here, okay? Because I happen to have a lot in common with this woman. You don't know a lot about that, but he does. She was born into a shit world and dealt a shit hand, and her only maturing was through pain and really bad experiences. And then at the age of, what did you say that she started to read in her neighbor's library? Around 8?
Like 8, 10.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
So with zero guidance and only being exposed to negativity and more forms than one, whatever she reads, she's a sponge with no foundation and no guidance. Whatever she reads, whether it's good or bad, she's going to absorb. And that is going to create...
In her early childhood.
Yes, and that is going to create the foundation of her views. And then she's going to just build off that. And look at the time period. You have a revolution when she's young. You have an American Revolution. And all these things are lining up for her to very easily be for or against certain things.
Yeah.
So, for example, hold on. If she went to that library and there was only books on the opposite of that, I guarantee you she would be of that opposite.
I
Her
disagree.
views.
The man that was giving the books was a religious figure.
Well, the thing I would say is that her life experience, which was having a horrible father,
Yeah.
you know, and also having a mother that treated her very badly too.
Yeah.
And then every man that she experienced in her life treated her kind of like crap, you know, knocked her up and abandoned her and all this other kind of stuff. I think a lot. I think that all shaped how she came to view. I think that came to shape how she viewed.
She found comfort in extremism.
Well, not just that, but because she viewed men as being exploitative.
Yeah.
She said, okay, well, society, which is patriarchal, is exploitative by nature as well.
And I'm also thinking of this like from the perspective of Ty Lopez. Your books are your mentors. Whatever she read
well,
could shape her future.
well, you know, so at the same time,
At the combination of her own life experiences, which were not fucking healthy in any measure.
I think if she would have had a dad that put her first and didn't hit her mom, she probably would not have adopted all the crazy radical ideas that she did.
I agree.
Yeah, of course. She was born into chaos.
Yeah, and so the thing is, when you're born into a set of circumstances like her, I think you've got one of two choices. You can either realize that that's not normal and try to grasp onto what is normal in spite of not having any, especially her, not having any examples and not having anybody there that's providing you an example of what normal is.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So for her, I think she uses this whole philosophy of like smashing the patriarchy and everything as trying to normalize her life experiences.
That's what I said,
if that
comfort
makes
in
any sense.
extremism.
Yeah, and you know, and that's so sad because you know the thing is if
Is that a word?
yeah, yes,
Extremism?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
extremism. Yeah,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Nico's an extremist. But
I am very much so on
but-
a lot of topics.
But you
Very
know,
passionate too.
and you know, ultimately,
It's my Sicilian nature.
Oh, is that it?
the sad thing about Mary Wollstonecraft is and she lived a very sad life, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and in many ways, I think her set of ideas that she ended up passing on to her daughter Mary, and then that ended up really becoming the feminist movement. I think this is all the result of women trying to normalize being treated badly by men.
Yeah. So,
You know,
enough with Mary. Let's talk about her daughter.
well that will be for part 2.
Yeah, that's going to be our part 2 subject.
Okay.
But I would like to say that I was caught totally by surprise, because I do know the situations that you speak of, and when you said that you had a lot in common with this lady, you blew my mind, because I thought you were going to say it was the penis envy that you two had in common.
Wow.
So that caught me totally by surprise.
Wow.
I would just like to go on record
Okay.
for the audience, because I am.
That's his level of fucking maturity over here.
Yeah, I'm like 7 years old max.
Dick joke insert.
I agree with both of you.
Yes, sir.
I agree with
Hey,
both of you.
fuck off. This is a conversation between men.
Dude, I like this guy is so fucking. He's so agreeable today. He was
Yeah,
like,
he
I was
is.
being kind of an ass earlier.
Yes,
I'm just gonna agree with everything today.
Yeah. One glass of whiskey, that's your limit.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
yeah.
You want a
So
little more?
I'll just take a
No,
little
because
bit.
then he becomes a prick.
No.
I like our version.
Okay, so here I actually have one final little quote. And,
Sure.
And this quote's actually by Mary Wollstonecraft, and this is a quote from her book, The Vindication of the Rights of Women, and she says in there, "I do not wish for women to have power over men, but over themselves."
Yes, and I agree with that.
Well, and but. In many ways, I don't think she realized what the consequences of her set of ideas would end up being.
No, I don't think
No?
the people who created Social Security realized what a clusterfuck that
Right.
would become earlier, but it worked for 20, 30 years really well.
Let me ask you a question though, because I think where people, and Shane, maybe you'll agree with me on this. I think where people get caught up is we put a negative connotation on the word power, and we put a negative connotation on the word submissive. We put a negative connotation on the words, for instance, those two specifically.
Yes, submission's a big one.
Submission. No one likes to hear that word.
No.
No one likes to hear the word power dynamics, right? They're like, oh, well, in our relationship, this is a partnership. No, it's not.
Are you talking about a relationship like marriage? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I will be the one. I will go on record, and I will be the guy that gets canceled. I don't care. No, it's not.
Elaborate before I go talk.
It's not a partnership. It's a union, and we both have roles. But there's only one decision maker at the end of the day. And for example, like I said, in no scenario do I expect my wife to lay down her life for me.
Yeah.
In every scenario, I would do that without hesitation
Yeah.
because that is my obligation. As I would do that for my children, and I would expect her to do that for the children too, but we're talking between us. My job first comes, I answer to God, right? Mm-hmm. My wife answers to me, and our children answer to her. And there's a reason for this hierarchy because there can only be one decision maker. So there's something above me that I answer to, my code, my morals, my ethics, my whole thought process is I'm subservient to God. By no way do I feel demasculated or suppressed because I'm subservient and submissive to God. Okay? But when we say that to women, women are supposed to be, and it says right in the Bible, if you want to take scripture, if you want to take it, works best when they are a support system. They're supposed to be there to help the man be a better version of himself, to take care of the household, to take care of the children, to do these things, to be his peace, if you will. Peace is a key word. Mm-hmm. It's not a partnership. She completes me and makes me better. I still
Some
have
people
to,
would call that a partnership.
It's not, though, because here's the thing. we like to use that word.
Yeah.
It's not. At the end of the day, I've always said this. In society, when women make mistakes, they are bailed out of these mistakes by society. Think about it. Mm-hmm. They do not have to suffer the consequences. Our legal system is even like this. It's set up this way.
It's changing slowly.
It will not. And here is the reason why. They are bailed out from consequences. Men are never bailed out from consequences. We suffer our consequences.
So are you saying women don't have any accountability of any kind?
I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that society is more lenient to women than they are to men. And I
Yes.
don't disagree with this necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm saying that men have consequences for their action to where women can be bailed out.
They will not be held to the same degree of accountability.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, I understand that now. Okay.
If you see a woman crying,
I call
your
it a partnership. Everything you just said, I agree with. You and your wife discuss it. At the end of the day, you make the decision. Or if you don't care, you just let her make the decision. Because, like, what color do you want the bed sheets? Could not give a shit, right? But I call it a partnership. That's maybe we're getting into semantics here, but that's what everything you just said. I
But
agree
it's not
with.
semantics because words matter.
Okay,
Right.
I agree with that.
So
But I refer to that as a partnership.
a partnership would be
Two equal parts.
in a business.
Like 50-50.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would
okay.
be a 50-50.
So then it's not.
And that's my point.
So what do you
is
call that? If you
people-
don't call it a partnership, what do you call it?
Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a union.
Well,
Because her whole job is to be your support system. She's to make you better. She's to be the raiser of children.
While simultaneously lifting her and your family up.
That's my job.
No, I know. She's lifting you up while you are lifting everything up.
Correct.
I completely agree with you.
I'm
but
supposed
I
to
very
go into
loosely,
the nasty world. I don't want her to do that.
I very loosely call it a partnership. I will now refer to that as a union because you and I are one of the same there.
I think
But here's the thing. In today's world, that's old school. That's very traditional.
but it's not.
because of Mary Wollstonecraft.
Right? But it's not, because what modern women say is they still want classical men,
But have nothing classical to offer.
but they don't want to be classical
Right.
women.
No, I understand
Correct.
that. I totally understand that. What you and I just agreed on there, in today a modern society, by women and quite frankly a lot of men, that is old school. That is traditional values.
It's starting to come back though,
Yo, of course.
You know?
Yeah, there's ebb and flow to everything. But
because largely I'd say it was the World War II generation and the boomers that really normalized the whole equality thing.
the structure of the union that we just described is what built this fucking country.
Well,
That right there.
But it's not even equality, and that's what I hate, because once again, words matter. And Jordan Peterson, huge on this. But you nailed it on the head. Especially in the last 40, 50 years. It's not equality of opportunity that they want. It's equality of outcome that they want.
Exactly right.
You can't fucking have that. That would be like 10 people in a race and we're like, oh, well, they all came in first place. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't believe in participation trophies.
right.
Everyone should be able to race, right? That's equality.
There's only going to be one winner.
But equality of outcome is insanity.
Yep.
You cannot force equality of outcome.
And that's-
because that's not equality.
And you're saying that's what they're fighting for or wanting?
Correct. The most basic term of this, and I know it sounds funny, is there is an infatuation with penis envy. And I know that sounds insane, and I know it sounds like I'm being funny. They think they want to be men.
You can't say that and not be funny.
They think they want to be men, but they don't want any of the responsibility of being men.
Yeah. Is it the dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're being told to live a bachelor lifestyle, but without any of the consequences or responsibilities, right? That's essentially what modern women are told to do.
I had
right?
I had some roommates, and one of them had a middle class white girl that came from a good family, and one of them came from the ghettos of Columbus, and she started talking shit on the other girl in private, and she says, you know, every girl wants to be ghetto to get these guys, but then when it comes time to doing ghetto shit, none of them want to do it.
Correct.
Same exact thing.
And here's the problem with modern society and the way that
Yeah.
That was the nicest way I could put that.
we've revolted against tradition and Christianity as a whole, in my opinion, as a Christian nation. In this modern hookup culture, and let's call it what it is, this thing's a fucking cesspool of insanity.
Yeah.
Who decides if two people have sex? Let's be honest. In modern culture, who decides if they're going to have sex?
It's not the man.
It's the woman.
Yeah. The men go out and say, I'm going to try to
But women hear that
I am going
and
to
they
get laid.
overvalue what I like to call there's an overvaluation of the vagina. Because they're like, I decide if we have sex. That's fine. Who decides if they get married?
The man.
Correct. That will always be the difference. So these women overvalue what they bring to the table
But you
because they think they bring the vagina, which is great.
But you can't deny pussy is power.
No, it's not.
Well, up until the expiration date.
Up
right?
until it's not. And that's my point.
Tens of thousands of men have died over that furry
They
box.
overvalue
To quote my
the
dad.
vagina because they decide who has sex, but men decide if they get married.
Tens of thousands of men have died over women.
But you know, that's ultimately
Wars were fought.
That's ultimately the tragedy of this entire thing. Is that modern culture, you could call it modern feminism, it tells women to go out and try to behave like degenerate men.
Like unscrupulous men.
Yeah. And then that but you see the
Men of low standard.
Yep. But the difference is that if men are working at improving themselves and if men are working at building their bank account and if men are working at business and stuff, they're going to get their ability to provision resources. It gets better over time. Right?
Hookup culture comes from a degradation of values.
Well, and so the thing is that women find status in men attractive.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that men find beauty in women attractive, and you know, ultimately the disconnect here is that most men gain status as they get older, and then all women become less beautiful as they get older.
No, I understand that.
And I know that might be an offensive thing, but that's just
it's not.
And
truth,
here's
right?
but here's the
well,
thing.
Well, not offensive
a lot
for
of
any
people,
of us here.
A lot of people, you have this conversation with them, they're going to look at you as a sexist.
How is it sexist?
I'm not saying that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not defending it either.
Let me ask you guys a
I
question.
agree with you.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's the old saying: women age like raisins, men age like fine wine. But
Not all men.
But here's the thing: men's value, how it's measured, in today's society, is typically measured through monetary means and resources of what they can provide.
That's how it's always been measured.
Yeah.
It's never changed. It's what men can provide. That's why men can never be loved unconditionally. Only women and children can.
I agree with that.
Only women and children are loved unconditionally.
Yeah, I agree with that. But more emphasis on the monetary means today.
It's always been a resource game. Because let me ask you a question. A 40-year-old single man that's never been married, never have children, and he makes $130,000 a year, right? He's focused on his career his whole life, educated, fit, taking care of himself, and he decides he wants to settle down. In society, how valuable do you think that man is on the market to go get married now? He's decided, I have established myself, I make $130,000 a year, I've taken care of my body, I've educated my mind. How, as a bachelor, now he wants to settle down. How valuable is that man?
Very attractive to women.
Very attractive.
Yep.
Let's take a 40-year-old woman in the same scenarios. Never married, never had kids. She's 40 years old.
There's more
She
red
makes
flags there than a Chinese communist parade.
$130,000 a year, and she goes, "I want to settle down now." How attractive is that to men?
I will say again, there is more red flags. If I see a woman who's 40, has never been married, doesn't have children, and she doesn't have a damn good reason for it.
She makes 130. She's career driven.
I don't give a fuck.
Makes 100. That
don't give a fuck.
Exactly my
There is,
fucking
if
point.
I meet a 40-year-old woman who's in that situation, more red flags there than a Chinese communist parade.
And these
What
women,
if she tells you she has a great job? Let's say she has a master's degree.
I don't give a fuck.
Exactly
You know
my
the one
point.
But here's the thing: what we look for in a woman can be different too. So, my biggest thing in a woman, coming from a few really bad relationships that are just toxic and I should have walked away from a long time ago, the biggest thing I'm looking for in my woman is to be my fucking peace.
Mm-hmm. You think that woman's going to be your
That's
peace?
what every man is
No.
looking for.
No.
It is for a woman to be
Some men like to be challenged. They like that intellectual back and forth.
But you know, the thing is, if that's the case, then you're never really going to have peace.
And here's why you're not
You know?
going to have peace. Because
Some people don't value the peace like I do.
But you know, I think the problem is our culture. It's normalized women not being peaceful.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but the thing is, in Mary Wollstonecraft's culture, the norm was for women to be the peace of the home. Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
There were definitely problems back then.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it was chocolate rivers and lollipop fields.
There's a lot of problems, and
Fucking Candyland.
from what I know,
I'm not saying it was Candyland.
from what
all
I
right?
know of, like what,
That's the only game he's good at, by the way.
Candyland,
Yeah.
And bingo.
he's not bad at Monopoly. I remember that.
It's because you cheat.
You always play by the rules
I
too.
can remember what I was.
fucking
I
shit.
don't
always
even
play
remember
by
what I
the
was
rules.
talking about. Anyways, continue. My thought train just.
So it's interesting to look at the evolution of marriage throughout history, because you end up, so if you start with the Roman Empire, so prior to the Roman Empire, the norm was polygamy, right?
Yeah.
In
Sure.
in human,
Different forms
in
of
human
it, yeah.
culture, in different forms, all different sets of rules and stuff all around the world. But when you look at the Roman Empire, you have their concept of marriage was one where the husband, they were called pater, they were called pater familias, and the husband, the father, had the right to sell his children into slavery, and to even sell his wife into slavery, I believe. And if he murdered a member of murdered a member of his immediate family, then there were no legal repercussions to it. Then when the Roman Empire became Christian, this whole notion of monogamy and that marriage was for everybody and the two become one flesh, that is when marriage radically changed in the West.
Right.
And where this whole idea that the role of the role of the man in the relationship, the role of the father was not to just be a tyrant. His role was to sacrifice, and a lot of that comes from when the Apostle Paul says husbands are to husbands are to be like Christ and the wife is to be like the church.
Correct.
That the husband is to be sacrificial. That had never been said before. That had never been thought of before.
Because men are subservient to their family, not tyrannical.
Right. Well, actually, perfectly like what you said before, to God, and in being subservient to God, they are subservient to their family.
Correct.
Right?
Because we have an obligation to our family. A tyrannical man, an abusive man to a woman, and that's all women hear is that, what do you mean I got to be submissive? If a man is mistreating a woman, he's not a man. He's a piece of shit.
No, but let's not pretend like there wasn't some serious mistreatment back then of men to women.
I'm not saying there's not. We are talking about concepts.
Back then, yeah.
Well,
then.
No,
there
not
was a
back
lot-
then. Now.
No. I'm talking about back then. Back then, men were not angels.
No,
Right.
but nothing's changed in modern culture. If you go to a bar and you pick up some girl and you take her home and you fucking plow her brains out and then you just dump her off and never call her again, you think that's a good guy?
No.
Does that make him a bad guy?
Yes.
That was the typical guy that Mary Wollstonecraft
I was going to
encountered
say,
in her life.
have you never had a one-night stand?
I'm not saying if I have or haven't.
I
I'm
was gonna
saying
say,
that
just because I have a one-night stand doesn't make me a piece of shit.
does it not? What was your purpose of going out
To get
do
my
that?
rocks off. The milk's free, boys.
Okay.
Right, and so what you did was you exploited her, right?
No, it was mutual.
But you exploited her for a good time.
Yeah, as she exploited me for a good
Right.
time.
But the thing and
Correct.
Yeah, but the thing is, you exploited her for a good time, and then you guys part ways and never talk to her again.
Well, yeah,
So-
unless she
That's,
becomes
a,
a
that's
friend.
a low
Right.
value exchange.
Right.
You do see that.
Yeah, I'd understand that. But
There's no
that-
substance
But
there.
that doesn't inherently make you a low value person.
Now I'm confused.
Okay, just because you had a low value exchange with some one night stands don't make you a piece of shit.
Well,
Just because you had a low value exchange with somebody else that was mutual doesn't make you a low value person. A good person is capable of doing low value things.
Okay, so do you? I just want to make sure your things are working. You hear yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have established that you can't hear yourself. What the fuck are you talking about?
Have you never had a one night stand?
I've never had a one night stand.
So
Okay.
So this is the problem is I don't even think you realize what you're saying, because what you're saying is that we've normalized trauma to the point where it's normal to traumatize other people.
Obviously, I've had sex out of marriage multiple times.
Yeah.
So that is sinful.
Yes.
But
In the eyes of your religion, yes.
But I've always dated with the purpose of seeing that if that person would be a good mate or not. Mm-hmm. Do you see that if you don't see this person being the mother of your children, then it's just carnal behavior. It's a low value exchange.
Yes, it's lust.
That would okay. Do you see the problem there?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, it's exploitative in the same way that Mary Wollstonecraft's encounters with just about every man that she ever encountered in her life was an exploitative affair.
Okay, so
You know?
as I said, hookup cultures is a degradation of values.
Right.
It's a society that we live in today.
And the thing that I would argue is that the godmother of the hookup culture is Mary Wollstonecraft.
Okay, that's fine. But having a one-night stand, I'll still stand by that. Having a one-night stand doesn't make you a piece of shit. If there's two people that mutually want to have a good time together, sure, maybe you're doing a thing that devalues you, but that doesn't make you a POS.
And look, and listen, Mary would say the same thing. But the thing is, normalizing trauma does not make trauma okay.
Mary did that thing.
She did.
Yeah, and the consequences is she had a child out of wedlock,
Yeah.
which was extremely socially unacceptable back then. Today, it is socially acceptable,
Yes, it is.
unfortunately.
But you know, the thing is, no one thinks about the child that's going to be born out of wedlock. You know because
Yeah.
the thing everybody's thinking about is just the orgasm.
Yeah,
That's the only.
It's pure
that's
lust.
the only thing. That's the only thing anybody's thinking about.
It's pure lust.
And you see, that's where I would argue that we're dealing with a resurgence of paganism in the West, because remember that. So the idea, the first chapter in all of existence that the paganism, or I guess the place from which paganism believes or believed that life sprung from, what was from chaos, was from struggle, right? And you can go back and look at the writings of Ovid, the cosmological writings of Ovid.
Not familiar.
Okay, so basically what he said was that
And
life,
we won't be after that.
okay, well, that all life basically sprung out of some chaotic, stormy egg. Okay, so that it was like the struggling chaos. Now what Christianity articulates is that life originates from love, and the definition of love would be willing the good of the other person. Mm-hmm. Now what I would argue is that the Darwinism goes right back to the original pagan thought, which is that life originates from struggle and from chaos.
I can't argue for or against that.
Well, and so now, so this is where I would bring these big ideas down to the ground level. Is if we believe that life comes from chaotic struggle, like Mary Wollstonecraft and the feminists that will end up succeeding her, then that justifies exploiting one another, right? Because the thing is, we're just a bunch of minds trapped in these meat jackets, and we're just trying to have a good time. We're all going to die anyway.
And I'm not saying it's not consensual. I'm not saying it's not two people coming to consensual. I'm saying it's a low value exchange.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay,
but doesn't mean that by default makes you a low value person.
Well,
that's striking to me because you're admitting that it's a low value exchange. There's no
Yes.
merit to it. You're not moving the goalpost in one direction. You don't want to reproduce with this woman, correct?
Ideally, no.
And you don't see a relationship with this woman. I'm not even saying from
Maybe.
the Christian standard,
Maybe.
but not maybe.
Maybe
Because you just said it was a one night.
there's a massive hookup culture in Iceland specifically, to where usually after sex it leads to a relationship.
I think they're largely atheists up there, aren't they?
Yeah,
In Iceland.
yeah, huge seculars.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point. I'm not even saying waiting for marriage. I'm not saying that. I'm not fighting this from a Christian standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if it's not moving the goalpost to your goals of your goals.
Nope. Your goals is to find a mate and reproduce.
Yes.
Right.
You would like to find a wife. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And you would like to have, I imagine, children.
Yes.
Okay.
Ideally.
If it's not serving that goal
No.
of having a wife and
Nope.
being children, I don't understand the concept.
But you know what it is doing? Two people are getting a physical urge off.
To what end? There's no substance there.
No. It's to get off.
Well,
To have a good time.
so
A physical exchange of sexual desire, and I don't really know the other wording for it.
So remember how earlier at the very beginning I said that one of the most common things that
Pause. I'm not saying this is good. I'm not saying this is
and
healthy.
I get that. I totally get
this
that.
is the society that we live in.
You're saying this is where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not making a value judgment. You're just saying that this is what it is.
And
we definitely have hookup
you
culture.
can choose to participate in that or not.
Right.
Right.
But
and does it
that-
move the goalposts further to your goal of
That's the
finding
norm,
someone and
though,
creating family?
you know?
It is.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I also have people who have hooked up and then hooked up again, and then a relationship spawned out of that, and they've been married for 10 years. So
It does happen. Yes.
It does happen. Yeah.
But
Would you say that's the norm?
no.
I can't speak on. Probably not. I'd assume no.
I
but
would say probably not.
Not in this country. No.
Well, so this is the thing I'll say is that
I know in the Scandinavian countries it's very different.
some of the most traumatic things that can happen to a child are to have abusive parents, to experience a nasty divorce, or to be born into a complicated situation like
A single
wedlock
parent
or,
household?
yeah, wedlock or something like that. And the thing is, what that does is it's passing on trauma to children, and then the trauma is all that the child knows, and then that child goes into life having internalized that trauma, and then they go on traumatizing other people because they think that's normal.
Wrong.
No, right.
No, because I check every fucking box that you just said, and I do the opposite. I go out of my way to not traumatize other people because I know it's wrong, because I'm a victim of everything you just said.
You're taking an exception. You're going from personal experience. You're not going from averages.
Okay, that's fair.
Right, but listen, the thing I'm saying is, like the one night stand that you had, or the one night stands that you've had, there has been trauma involved in that.
Maybe.
Trauma to you and trauma to the woman as well.
I can't speak on that from a psychological level.
Well, but the thing is what that does, it normalizes the trauma. And what it does
Maybe.
is it ends up spreading more and more trauma throughout the society. And the thing is, that is something that has been passed on to us. You know, that notion that trauma is normal, that's been passed on to us via our parents' generation and also via the public education system. And so the thing is, the really radical, the really revolutionary thing to do is to say that we're not going to traumatize other people, and we're not going to tolerate the traumatizing of us and the traumatizing of others. And now
In a perfect world.
Now this is where we would probably diverge. Is what I would say is that that love is the cure to trauma. And when I say love, I'm not just talking about like romantic love or whatever. I'm talking about genuinely willing the good of other people and self-sacrifice for the good of others.
Okay.
That is the core. That's the core Christian ethic. That is what Christianity is based upon.
Okay.
In the same way that Darwinism is based upon the subjugation of the weak, right?
No, it's just survival of the fittest.
Right.
That's what it's based on.
Survival of the fittest,
Yeah.
subjugation of the weak. You know that the strong survive, the weak don't.
Pretty much.
Right. So the thing is that is unfortunately that core principle of Darwinism
that's
of struggle.
nature.
But you see, the thing is that's where we diverge.
Yeah, that's nature.
right? But
Weak things die.
in some cases, yes, and in some cases, no. But
humans
the
are the
thing is-
anomaly there.
But the thing is that is
There's
not
a reason for that.
But the
though.
thing is, that's not the norm for humans.
You're going to say religion?
No, I'm going to say soul.
Oh, okay.
but the thing is,
Not religion.
That's not the norm for humans.
Because there's a reason for that, gentlemen.
Right.
There's a reason that's not normal for humans. There's a reason that you don't go around and just force yourself upon every attractive woman out there.
Yeah.
There's a reason that you don't go out there and just because someone displeases you, you bash their skull in.
Morals, laws,
Right.
and principles.
Yeah.
A factor, yes, there's a multitude of factors to these things. There's reasons for that we don't do those things. And that's what I'm saying is when we go into our more animalistic sense, and I'm not even talking about just Shane's gonna go the hardcore version of it should only be marriage and you can't have sex before marriage and it should be these things. I'm saying if there's not a point of you connecting with this person to where you can see them being a potential mate for you, then I don't think it's worth the investment. I don't know why we're entertaining these things. Because obviously, if you don't want this woman to be your wife, or the potential of her being a wife, or giving you offspring, then you don't even see this woman on a value scale that's equivalent to yours. Why are we entertaining it?
That's a question I can't answer.
Okay, so
I'm not the one
And
to
I'm not
defend
saying
that argument.
I have to
That's
wait for this woman to marriage. I'm saying, why are you entertaining low-value women? And don't say she's not low value.
No,
because
to my reasoning for that is that it's just a mutual physical exchange between two people. We're both getting our rocks off. That's my only answer to that.
So, okay, my question would be, do you disagree with, do you think bulimia is normal or not normal?
The hell is bulimia?
Like where
Oh, like bulimic.
yeah, bulimics. Do you think that's normal or do you think it's abnormal? Bulimia, anorexia, do you think that's...
I think that's abnormal. Isn't
Where
that a
people binge and
psychological?
purge?
I think that's a psychological, physical reaction. Yeah.
So that would be your way of saying that it's not normal, right?
Yeah.
And that
Hookup culture is not normal.
okay, so well and here
In today's society, it is.
right, it's been normalized.
Normalized.
But
Yes,
the thing is,
yes.
it's been normalized in the same way that like if bulimia were normalized, it could be normalized, but it could still be wrong, right?
Yeah.
or if women wanted to be men.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So something I want to bring up is, what is the purpose of eating food?
To survive.
Okay, and what is the end product of eating food? It's nourishment, right?
Yeah.
And then you
Nutrients.
also expel the stuff you don't use,
The
right?
waste product, yes.
Yeah. But the end goal of the end purpose of eating is nourishment, and then there is also pleasure to be had in eating. Correct? Like you
make food taste good.
Yeah. You can eat food that tastes delicious, and you may overeat. I have a tendency to do that. Nico has a tendency to do that. I think all three of us have a tendency.
Not anymore. I've gotten a lot.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot better at that.
I have a tendency to do that. So,
Are you calling me fat, you piece of shit?
yes, I am.
Morbidly obese fuck.
As a matter of fact, yes, I
God
am.
almighty. How
I'm
are
a-
you not
Yep.
breaking the chair right
I'm
now?
179 pounds. Fuck you.
No, fuck you, asshole.
Fuck you.
But so the thing is, we can all agree that the purpose of eating is to nourish our bodies, and there is a little bit of pleasure to be had in that as well. I mean, Now the thing is, sex is very similar. That the end goal, the end purpose of sex. Remember that the term that we use for it is procreation, right? And the term procreate and procreation means that you are collaborating in the creation of another person.
Reproduce.
Like that is the very purpose of that act.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you ready for another bombshell?
Yeah. hit me.
Okay. So the thing is, that's the very purpose of that act. So when we participate in hookup culture, using contraception, stuff like that,
Yeah.
that would be equivalent to eating, to basically binging and purging food. It's just as unnatural.
Maybe. It wasn't a lecture. It was think it was an interview or a podcast, and Jordan Peterson was
Brilliant guy.
very
Brilliant.
beautifully breaking down how psychologically and evolutionary birth control is out of this world. Contraceptives, we have no idea. It is like interrupted the evolutionary process.
It's hell.
Of human beings progressing forward. And I don't want to misquote him there. That was just my takeaway from it. But it was such a well-articulated breakdown of how we are not at the, like, it's way ahead of our time. Way, mentally, psychologically, it's way, way ahead of our time. We don't understand the benefits and consequences of it.
I'd argue there are no benefits to it. None.
I'm not that much in
because
depth to argue for or against it.
The thing I would argue without taking us down a rabbit hole.
If you had a one night stand and she was on the IUD, you would say that that's the benefit of it.
No, so the thing I would say is what contraception ends up doing to a culture, and I would argue that's what it's done to our culture, is it decouples procreation from intercourse.
It
totally decouples
it removes and procreation can be viewed as the consequence.
But the thing is that procreation is the natural result of intercourse.
Correct.
That it's not just the natural result; it's the goal. Like it's just like how the natural goal of a baby is to become an adult, right? Like to become an adult woman or to become an adult
a
man.
seed to become a plant or a tree.
And like how the natural
it's subverting that.
Okay,
so what you're saying, like, this was part of his argument.
Okay.
But I'm not going to speak for him. I'm not going to fucking quote him.
You are not a lobster. You are a lobster.
A king lobster.
Yeah, you are a king lobster.
King lobster.
So there's a lot of analogies that people use when they explain stuff, and when he goes down to like the was it patriarchies of lobsters or something?
Yeah.
That guy totally fucking loses me. I'm just like, I understand where he's connecting the dots, and I'm just like, dude, out of all the analogies you can use, you use lobsters, really?
Well, it's the most that was in line with that. Like, Jordan Peterson's brilliant.
Oh yeah. With the lobsters, he's talking about what, like serotonin and stuff.
So I think Jordan Peterson's a lot like Ben Shapiro. The level of thought that's going through his head before it comes out of his mouth, he needs to break it down into layman terms. Mm-hmm. Where Ben Shapiro, like, will respond one way, but 5 different responses went through his brain that were way a higher level of eloquent than what he said.
Except a majority of the time when Jordan Peterson thinks, he thinks it and then words come out. When Ben Shapiro does it, shit comes out.
So listen.
Wow, what a dig at Shapiro. Okay, I don't always agree with him, but fuck.
I love Michael Knowles. I love
You don't like Shapiro?
I do like Shapiro. I just pick on. I don't even know why. I do like Shapiro a lot.
That was funny though.
As far as Jordan Peterson goes, my 2 main critiques of his would be probably one, that he cries too much.
No.
And then the other critique,
he does cry a lot.
He does cry a lot, but there's nothing wrong with being emotional.
I mean, he just does. I think. I don't. It doesn't take. It's like watching a Lifetime movie sometimes. Whenever you watch him,
yeah.
You know. But
men can show emotion.
Yeah.
Men can never show weakness. There's a difference.
But when did we view crying as weakness? In today's society, it's viewed as weakness. Like I was taught, you only cry in front of your father and in front of your therapist, and that's it.
Or in the shower, or on your pillow,
or in the shower. No, not on your pillow, because that could give you away,
and it could cause mildew.
Why there's no
pillow.
What the fuck?
I know for a fact there's no one in the bed with you guys, so it's fine.
Hey, how do you know?
Because we might be in hookup culture.
Let's finish that. Finish that.
I'm not gonna
Finish it. You fucking hater. Finish it.
We might be in hookup culture, but I know 2 out of 3 people on this table aren't participating in it, so we don't have to worry about that.
Fuck you, asshole.
That was great.
My other main criticism of Jordan Peterson would be this: that I think he.
Hold on. We're not here to criticize Peterson.
Well, let him critique.
Yeah. Here. I'm going to finish this up and then we can move on.
All right.
So my other main criticism of Peterson is that I think he tends to make things too abstract.
Elaborate on that.
So like what he likes to do.
No, but we're gonna have a conversation about Old Forester.
So what he has a tendency to like to do, he likes to take he likes to take things. He likes to take religious texts like let's say the Bible, or the Quran or something, and he likes to try to make them into. He just tries to make them too symbolic.
I've heard that argument before,
and that's a criticism I have of him. I mean, so I'm not saying that it's, and I'm not saying this is something I think is dangerous or that I think this is something that's bad. I'm just saying that's.
I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah, I've heard that argument.
That and the crying. Those are the only two critiques I have of Jordan that I would have.
Did you watch?
Other than that, I don't have any critiques.
Did you watch the talk between him, Richard Dawkins, and Jordan Peterson?
I think I saw clips of it. I didn't see the whole thing.
Dude, that was the biggest.
Richard Dawkins got annihilated in it.
No. It was the most apples to oranges fucking conversation I've ever. I felt like
because Jordan Peterson's smart and Dawkins is dumb.
No.
I wouldn't say Dawkins.
I would. I feel like Dawkins was on the moon
I know.
and Peterson was on Mars. It was just the conversation was so fucking disconnected.
Well, that's the problem. Is it's okay to have different starting points, but at some point you guys have to travel the same road, or you can't have a conversation.
Okay. So like Dawkins would ask Peterson something, and then Peterson would answer it without answering it, and then Peterson would ask Dawkins something, and Dawkins would give a direct answer that wasn't even related to the question that Peterson gave. And it was just, every time one of them answered, I was like,
but
okay.
That's because they have different definitions and different, they're not even agreeing on words.
No, not at all. These two guys were like on different fucking planes.
Different
and I thought,
realities.
I thought this was going to be like the most interesting shit ever. When I read that,
That's the problem with
I felt
a lot of these
dumber when I
debates.
walked away. I was like, what the fuck was that?
If you guys can't agree on the words or the verbiage that you're using, it's not a debate. It's two people, different starting points, different ending points, and none of the roads that they travel even intersect.
Well, and here's the thing I loved about Hitchens is that he would typically be very fucking direct with the question, but if they weren't on the same plane, he would very quickly make sure both of those were on the same plane, both people.
Yeah, they have to. Or it's like I said, it's not a debate. It's just two people talking at each other. So I can ask you questions all day long. You're going to answer... Which it sounds like I'm talking on both sides of my mouth. You guys get what I'm saying with that? There has to be,
we understand. But it was just, it was the oddest conversation between two brilliant people that I admire I've ever witnessed. And I didn't even finish it. And I was just like...
I heard that's a problem you have, though.
Not finishing?
Yes.
If whiskey, too much whiskey. There is a such thing as whiskey dick.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
algorithm.
Yeah.
Whiskey schlong.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're a gentleman.
So
hey, edit that out.
Yeah.
Clip it.
Out of the new atheists, talking about like Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and I forget who the other guy was. My favorite was definitely Christopher Hitchens.
I love Hitchens. Hitchens was so articulate and eloquent. I like Sam Harris.
I don't.
He just.
I think he's dumb.
Harris. I'm not even going to respond to that.
I think he's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good argument, Shane.
Yeah, me too.
I just think he's stupid.
But this is the thing: is Sam Harris?
I like Harris. I don't like Harris as much as Hitchens, but I like Harris.
The thing is, people were I remember prior to like 2015, people were always like, "Oh, Sam Harris is not crazy. Sam Harris is not crazy." And then when Trump got into office, then the crazy really came out. And then when COVID happened, the crazy really came out because and I think Sam Harris, I don't think he's been out of his basement since like 2020. I think he's still there.
I'm not going to talk shit on him.
Because Sam Harris is a nut job, and I'm just speaking facts. I'm not talking shit. Nico, sorry.
No. I was interrupting.
Let's the same thing about you.
No.
Let's round this out and try to bring it back.
What I would say to him is come out of your basement and come and say it to my face. All right?
Fuck, dude.
Yeah,
this guy's going to fight some fucking...
Jesus.
This is wild.
Putting him boxing gloves?
Listen, I'm not going into his basement. Because
I don't know. You're fucking weird. I could see you doing that. Anyways.
We don't have basements in Florida.
Yeah, you'd be under fucking water.
You would.
So let's do this. Let's round it out. Let's try to bring it back to that initial
Feminism.
Yeah, back to where we were. I'm guilty this time. Usually I keep you fuckers on track.
So-
I think I ran off with you guys, derailing there. Let's bring it back, round it out, kind of round this up.
Are we going to discuss first wave?
That's going to be next time, correct?
Yeah, let's table that for the next.
Because this is right now what we're trying to do is really establish the cornerstone of how this we dropped the rock,
the seed of it
and
all.
now we have ripples.
The seed of it all.
Well, and the interesting thing is that, I mean, this is something that we've all said tonight is that the very beginning of feminism, it's really not just the beginning of feminism; it's the beginning of a lot of different things.
Yeah,
you know.
As you said, there's a lot of branches that came off that tree.
Yeah.
I would say it's the erosion of societal, not only norms, but of societal expectations of people, of morals, if you will, in a way. It's the erosion of those morals.
I think second, third, and fourth wave is definitely exactly what you just said. But I think first wave brought a lot of good stuff for women.
I based off what you said tonight, I could see why you would say that.
Okay.
I would argue that the feminist movement beginning with Mary Wollstonecraft was, I believe, one of the big planks was to normalize degeneracy. And actually, the thing I would say is that the entire Enlightenment movement what was about normalizing degeneracy.
No, I don't agree with that.
I mean, well, we could just rewind this back about 57 minutes, and you were agreeing just fine.
Yeah. No. I mean,
he referred to it as the Enlightenment.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good that came out of that.
I knew that was something that we would disagree on, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just I think feminism is definitely an enlightenment movement that comes from the notion that, because remember, like, really the core element of the Enlightenment that kind of unifies all the Enlightenment thinkers is that it really begins with the Protestant Reformation, and it starts with saying that reason is your only guide, right? Like that's essentially what it says.
Secularism.
Specifically it says reason.
Okay.
And that secularism would kind of be an outgrowth of that.
I think reason should be a guide.
Right, but what they say is that reason is to be the guide, and that's one of the reasons that, like, the woman that our Statue of Liberty is based on, she was called Miriam, the goddess of wisdom, or something like that, and during the French Revolution they took a prostitute and they dressed her up the way that Lady Liberty is dressed up, with the little crown and stuff like that, and in the robes and the little book and stuff, and they would parade her around as Lady Liberty throughout France, and what
This was a confirmed prostitute?
Yes, yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, but the thing is, to me, and what they would call her is Lady Reason, and in fact, when like the big Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris.
Yeah, that just reopened.
Yeah, that just reopened. Well, during the French Revolution, they actually reconsecrated Notre Dame, because Notre Dame in French means Our Lady, but they reconsecrated it during the French Revolution to the Goddess of Reason, and the personification of the Goddess of Reason was the woman that our Statue of Liberty represents today, and they would parade her around, and the reason that they would pick a prostitute was to communicate the message that degeneracy doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your internal reason, and that's it.
Okay.
And that is, to me, that's the core of the Enlightenment. It's normalizing degeneracy. Which we're obviously going to disagree on that, but
Yeah.
and that might be an interesting topic for us to talk about one.
Yeah, it'd be enlightenment.
Well, I think that's it. There's an equivalency there that you can kind of what do you call it?
I'm not saying it's all bad, though. I'm not saying the Enlightenment was
No,
all
there's an equivalency there when you kind of like what is it when you X something out? Like you do something, but you can counteract it. Like you can negate it, kind of. So, like, if you give your pussy away freely, just read a book. And then it kind of, it negates it. So, for every time you're just out there just, like, fucking letting a random dong in just go read a small, go read a book and it negates it. So she's a very intelligent woman. She's just a whore.
Yeah. Yeah, you do something degenerate and then you do something else to feed your reason.
I'm not going to even entertain that.
Yeah, and I mean, really, ultimately, at the end of the day,
are you proud of yourself?
I always am.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, listen. If there is anyone I know that is always proud of themselves, it's Nico.
It's this
Dude,
fucker
always.
right here.
Dude,
Yeah,
one of my
absolutely.
biggest sins is definitely, dude, I am vain. I love myself. I think I'm a funny fucker.
Yeah, you are a funny fucker.
You are funny. Fucker.
Not like a clown, but more like I leave that to you guys.
No, I was just gonna say
I'm
like a clown.
I'm more like highbrow. I've read a lot of books, so let's put it that way.
Well, listen. The thing is,
Do you,
but Nico, this is the thing. People can't see Nico's shoes, and Nico's wearing clown shoes right
you know
now.
what my dad used to say?
What's
I'd
that?
say, Dad, come on. I'm your son. I'm special. He goes, yeah, fucking special ed.
Yeah, special needs. Yeah,
That's you. You love yourself. You're special.
because I'm dyslexic.
special ed.
You don't-
No.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
because
no,
I'm dyslexic.
no.
He's picking on me because I'm dyslexic. I mix up letters,
You
and
know
all of
what?
a sudden,
Fuck you, because you're dyslexic.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
rolling with
Yes.
it. I'm rolling
Clip
with
it.
it. You
Clip it.
dyslexic fuck.
Yeah.
Clip it.
No.
Okay, all right, yeah.
clip it. I want that.
Speaking of that, I don't think I'm dyslexic. Fuck. But
You
there
might
are,
be.
there's
Did
a
you just
few
hear
words,
yourself?
There's a few words that I wrote backwards on here without realizing that I wrote them backwards.
That's some hard R shit, dude.
Can't say that anymore.
I didn't say anything.
Did I tell you what?
I said hard R.
Did I tell you what it was?
What?
Intellectually deficient. That's the new one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Well,
ED.
ED.
that
Yep.
sounds.
I'm pretty sure.
sounds
to
like-
quote you, if somebody called me that, I'm pretty sure I'd have to fight them.
Yeah. What was that one where they caught? I'm like, I think we
No,
have to fight.
ID, not. I'm sorry, I screwed that up.
It's because you're hard R too.
No,
You
no,
are.
no. I'm not.
He's about one click from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just move it a little
Do
bit.
you know the
Yeah.
Down syndrome gene? You just went like dodge that just a little bit.
Oh,
there.
you're talking about the one that you have. If you turn around and you look in that mirror, you can see it right
I
there.
look pretty fucking sexy if you
This
ask
is
me,
some
but-
high quality podcasting.
Yeah,
right here,
yeah, yes,
boys.
it is.
So let me just
Okay, well, so
It's like 10 minutes of calling each other retarded.
yeah.
fucking just bust the balls.
So are we going to start wrapping things
Yeah,
up? or
let's
do we-
wrap.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
wrap it up. Which you're against morally?
What? What? No. Because
That's why
listen.
these fucking podcasts never.
No, because listen, the purpose of a podcast is not to bring a new human baby into existence.
Okay, yeah. And maybe a new listener if we would fucking wrap this up.
Well, the thing is, we know for a fact that we've at least got 3 listeners, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And thank the other 7 of you. We love you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Thank you.
4
Yeah.
because I re-listened to these.
Don't tell them that.
Oh,
dude.
so you represent all the other listeners, and then I listen to each one like 2 or 3 times. Then you listen to them only once.
I've never listened to one of our podcasts.
I listened to one once because I like to,
Once is enough for me.
I like to critique myself.
Me too.
I never
Ni-
relive these moments.
Nico doesn't care.
I have not listened to one podcast one time. I just want you guys to
No,
know
we're
that.
always looking to improve himself. He just
Exactly.
thinks he's
Yeah.
fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, what am I going to improve upon? I've hit the apex, gentlemen.
Wow.
Prime specimen of arrogance.
You mortal twat.
You mortal-
You mortal-
Okay, so final thoughts on the origin of feminism, on Mary Wollstonecraft.
Lead us off. Final thoughts.
Okay, so my final thought is that she normalized her trauma into the form of an ideological cult, and that ended up carrying on through all the other ways of feminism, and we'll end up seeing that. We'll end up seeing how it's there's really not much difference between the personality cult of Mao or Stalin or Gaddafi and Mary Wollstonecraft. The only thing is that we've normalized the personality cult of Mary Wollstonecraft.
Gaddafi had a cult.
Oh yeah. You know how Mao had the little red book?
Yeah.
Well, Gaddafi had the little green book.
Oh, didn't know that. Wow.
But listen, there are a lot of issues
I
with
think-
Gaddafi, but I've got respect for the guy.
I think you
and
said
it was
that,
wrong for us to kill him.
I think you said that perfectly to what modern feminism has evolved to today. But not to get into the weeds, but I do think there are wonderful things for women that came out of first wave feminism.
Like something I think we can all agree on is improving the educational opportunities for women. which was one of the things that the Mary Wollstonecraft said
Pushed.
needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we would all agree on is that women should be taught to read, and women should be allowed to attend school and to think and to write and to
Equal opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's your wrap up.
I just added to his.
Okay, I would like to end with this then, and then we can say our goodbyes.
Oh boy.
And I truly mean this. It's going to sound wild, but I truly believe that if we had the ability for women to grow dicks in a short amount of time, if they were held to the same standards as men, and I mean the exact same standards, in a very short amount of time, they would rip them off and throw them away.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's how I want to end that in a very short amount of time.
Weird note, but
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well,
That
we'll
is
conclude
not-
on that.
That is not what I was expecting.
No.
Is that what you were expecting? Or
No,
Okay,
definitely
yeah.
not.
So
Definitely
you guys,
not.
I was not
leave that
expecting
image
that.
for you guys. Yeah. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, peace.
Boys.
We're in the holiday season, so
Peace in the Middle East.
Yep. Yes, please pray for
Please.
peace in the Middle East. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We probably got one more before Christmas.
No.
Oh yeah, we do. I think.
No. No.
I think we got one more.
We'll
Because
end up doing one
next week is next week is
we're
cards.
playing cards next week, but we could
We'll do
one
one
next
more.
week.
Yeah. We got one more for
Yeah.
Christmas,
Yeah,
but
for
just
sure.
in case, Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
I don't think you celebrate Christmas.
Yes, I do. You fuck.
Oh, you celebrate Ramadan, right? So happy Ramadan to
What do you
Sebastian.
do? Happy Earth Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you do. I don't know what the fucking.
Wow. I'm not even gonna entertain these fucking
All right,
knuckleheads.
guys. Yeah, all right.
Merry
Love
Christmas,
you guys.
guys.
Have a
Happy
good one.
holidays.